4 News.
What are you doing for the kids you know? The Minneapolis-based Search Institute recently graded grown-ups all over the country. They found adults know they should connect with kids, they just don't do it. With the help of the Search Institute, Dimension trained its cameras on one St. Louis Park neighborhood. And as you watch tonight's Dimension, ask yourself, how would you and your neighbors do if Dimension came to your neighborhood? Here's Trish Van Pilsen.
You're beautiful, that's for sure. You'll never, ever fade.
The chalk drawing, a sign kids are nearby. But in this St. Louis Park neighborhood, the chalk will become something more. A way of grading grown-ups. Do they pay enough attention to the kids on their block?
Well, maybe there is something to this neighborhood thing.
But before we can grade them, we have to get them all together.
So that's when I had this bright idea. For the party, another party of the year.
A block party, but not a typical one. It's a party with a purpose and lots of chalk.
Camera one closes in, the soundtrack starts, the scene begins.
First, Dimension sets the scene. Asks an artist to sketch this neighborhood within the neighborhood. 35 homes drawn right on the road, with family photos to put a place to the face.
Are the people in your neighborhood, in your neighborhood, in your neighborhood safe?
Before long, curious neighbors step into Dimension's chalk laboratory.
That's the block over, isn't it?
This is my house.
Do you want to see our house?
Even before we get to tell them what the chalk's all about,
Hi, I'm Shirley.
Hi, Shirley, I'm Blair.
they're reconnecting.
I've waved at you, I think, a few times.
Or connecting for the first time.
Thank you.
Renewed and newfound neighborliness.
Lori, was it?
Cindy.
Oh, Cindy.
And I'm Tim.
Tim. Oh, hi, Tim.
That's a good thing. But that's not the only reason we're here.
Hey, Tiger.
We're here for the kids.
Welcome to the party, this is one of a kind.
Thank you.
We asked the grown-ups to use pink chalk to indicate how well they know the kids at each house.
So come on, everybody, throw your hands in the air. We're giving it. Oh, yeah.
If you know something about the kids, their families, their interests, what they're doing in school, mark an X underneath that house.
Did I know you? Did I know you even then?
If you really don't interact with the kids in that home, just mark a circle underneath it. Let's line up.
Then kids get a crack at the chalk.
Put an X by the house if the grown-ups in that house know you really well.
Start the game, the whistle blows. Pay attention close, as the story goes.
They talk about school with you?
Do they say hi to you and stuff? They don't know my name.
Just like boom, I put it in the hoop like slam. I heard the crowd screaming out jam.
X. Circle here.
Do they greet you by your name?
No.
There's a lot of things we all want, but only one thing we can never have enough of.
Both grown-ups and kids take written surveys, too, with specific questions. Do grown-ups give kids advice? Ask their opinions. Praise them when they do something right.
How many of the grown-ups in your neighborhood would tell your parents if they caught you doing something wrong? Think the neighborhood kids aren't your business? Think again. Kids who don't get lots of guidance from grown-ups, and not just their parents, are much more likely to get into trouble. What kind of trouble? Failing grades, drinking, and worse.
Whoa.
These drugs really got a hold of me.
Whoa.
Cause every time I try to tell them no, they won't let me ever let them go.
But in this neighborhood, most folks seem to know they have a role to play in the lives of kids.
I think all kids want attention and want to be heard and seen.
When the chalk dust settles, Dimension discovers several things. From the adult's point of view, things look good. all 12 of the houses with kids get pink X's. Remember, that's what the grown-ups mark if they know the kids in that house really well.
Yeah, they talk to me a lot about my life, and if I'm doing anything wrong, they'll tell me that.
That's a great statement for this neighborhood.
Nathan Dungan is a vice president for Lutheran Brotherhood, which did a national survey grading grown-ups' relationships with kids.
That at least one person in that neighborhood on this street has recognized that young person. And I think that's a great step. I don't know that that would be true across in America.
But from the kids' point of view, there are more adults who could pay attention to them. 9 of the 35 homes, that's a fourth of the neighborhood, didn't get a yellow X. That means not a single neighborhood kid felt the grown-ups inside knew them well.
They ignore us. They don't say nothing.
Do you wish the grown-ups would pay more attention to you?
Yeah.
The kids are going to tell it straight on. And I think that's what's very evident here is that the kids have said, oh yeah, we all know this particular family, but maybe a little more spotty in the rest of the neighborhoods.
The Chalk told another story too. When grown-ups make an effort to know kids, the kids really notice.
What grade are you in?
On most spring evenings, kids swarm Sean and Michelle Dilley's front yard, although they have no kids of their own. Not yet.
Well, at first it was kind of like, wow, they're walking right through the yard, and then just realized it's kind of a good thing, because I like that about the way I grew up.
And in the Chalk test, the Dilleys were the curve busters. More than half the kids in the neighborhood say the Dilleys know them well. Michelle says that's no accident.
It creates a more community environment, and I don't think that raising children should always be entirely a parent's job. And I think that this is the village. You know, this is the place where people can help.
Terry McKenzie's more the type to keep his distance. No kid felt he knows them well.
I love kids, but I don't like unruly kids, and I think that a lot of these kids are unruly.
One of the most telling things came in the written survey. Dimension found that the kids on this block who know lots of grown-ups feel better about their neighborhood than the kids who don't. In fact, the well-connected kids love where they live.
Together we will stand, every boy, every woman, and man.
And it seems there will be more connecting here from now on.
I'm Deanna Gordon.
Folks, kids and grown-ups, seem to be trying a little harder.
What's your name?
And remember Terry, this past week, some of the kids he called unruly introduced themselves and apologized for past transgressions.
We hardly knew him, and then he just came out, and I just started trying to make friends with him.
And we're right on the corner.
The party is just a place to start.
It's a beautiful day.
Hard to say where the neighborhood will go from here.
It's a beautiful day.
For Dimension, I'm Trish Van Pilsum.
Not sure where to start? For safe and healthy ways to connect with kids, click on to WCCO.com and we'll link you to one of the best sites in the world to help children, the Search Institute.